In the summer of 2025, the inevitable finally happened. After 20 years, 426 appearances and 138 goals, Marcus Rashford was gone. Once the shining symbol of Manchester United's future, he had agreed to join FC Barcelona. The deal itself spoke volumes. A season-long loan with an option, not an obligation to buy. Barcelona basically said, "We'll take him, but we're not sure we want to keep him." This wasn't some triumphant farewell. This was an escape. Rashford had been exiled from the first team after a public fallout with manager Ruben Amorim, forced to train alone after the senior squad had left the complex. The final humiliation came when they gave his iconic number 10 shirt, the one he'd worn for 7 years, to new signing Matheus Cunha. United, desperate to offload his £325,000 per week wages, couldn't find anyone willing to pay their $40 million asking price. So Rashford agreed to a massive pay cut just to get out of Manchester. Now here's the wild part. Just 2 years before this, Rashford was destroying everyone. 2022-23 season, 30 goals, carrying his boyhood club on his shoulders. Erik Ten Hag said this dude could hit 40 goals a season. So how does a player at the peak of his powers, the hero of his city, end up fleeing to Spain? How does the man who embodied the club's identity become someone they couldn't wait to get rid of? This is the story of Marcus Rashford and the stunning season that wasn't a new beginning, but the beginning of the end. Before the stadium lights, the multi-million-pound contracts, and the crushing weight of expectation, there was just a boy from Manchester. Born in 1997, Marcus Rashford was raised in the working-class neighborhoods of Fallowfield, Withington, and Wythenshawe. He was one of 5 children raised by a single mother, Melanie Maynard, who often worked multiple jobs and skipped meals herself to ensure her children were fed. This upbringing forged a resilient character. His drive found its outlet in football, which he began playing at age 5 for Fletcher Moss Rangers, surprisingly starting as a goalkeeper who idolized Tim Howard. Even then, his talent was undeniable. An academy development officer noted that Rashford was on a different level from the other boys. He joined the Manchester United Academy at age 7, turning down interest from Liverpool and Everton to play for the team he supported. The early years were rough. He often missed training because his family couldn't get him there. The problem was only solved when youth coaches stepped in to arrange drivers. At age 11, his dedication paid off. He became the youngest ever player selected for the Manchester United Schoolboy Scholars Scheme, a program usually reserved for players 12 and older. He was fast-tracked, playing cage football with older prospects like Paul Pogba and Jesse Lingard, honing his skills against players 4 years his senior. The family's commitment was absolute. They turned down what he later described as life-changing money from other clubs so he could continue to wear the badge of his boyhood team. He was Manchester United through and through, which makes what happens next feel almost inevitable. February 25, 2016. Anthony Martial gets injured in the warm-up of a Europa League tie against FC Midtjylland. Manager Louis van Gaal has to make a decision. He throws in an 18-year-old unknown named Marcus Rashford. What followed was pure fairy tale. Rashford scored twice, becoming United's youngest ever European goalscorer and turning the tie on its head. 3 days later, he was handed his Premier League debut against bitter rivals Arsenal. Once again, he was electric, scoring 2 goals and providing an assist in a stunning 3-2 victory. In the space of 72 hours, a star was born. Van Gaal hailed him as a special talent, placing his debut in the same elite category as those of Patrick Kluivert and Xavi. Not bad for a kid who was supposed to be nowhere near the first team. After Van Gaal's departure, Jose Mourinho arrived, bringing a more pragmatic and demanding philosophy. Rashford became a key squad member, playing more games under Mourinho than any other United player during his tenure. 125 appearances in total. Mourinho trusted the youngster's special mentality, but was candid about his limitations. He didn't see Rashford as a clinical 30-goal-a-season number 9. Instead, he saw him as a man of movement, best utilized coming in from the left wing. The kid who exploded as a striker was now learning to track back and defend. This period was an education in tactical discipline. Rashford was often deployed wide, contributing to team structure and winning trophies like the Europa League and EFL Cup. But his goal return was modest, 28 goals across those 125 games. The arrival of former United striker Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in late 2018 marked a significant shift. Rashford was freed from Mourinho's conservative tactics and encouraged to play with freedom. Solskjaer immediately installed him as a central attacker, and the results were electric. Everything increased: shots, dribbles, touches in the opposition box. This became the most prolific period of his career. He scored more goals under the Norwegian than any other manager, 55 in 135 games, including his two best seasons to that point. 22 goals in 2019-20 and 21 goals in 2020-21. But the relationship had its complications. A public comment urging Rashford to prioritize his football was received poorly by the players' camp. They felt it fed an unfair narrative that his off-field activism was a distraction. Meanwhile, the physical toll was mounting. He played through a double stress fracture in his back in 2020. Then came a shoulder injury that hampered him for nearly a year. The man was literally breaking apart trying to carry Manchester United. By the 2021-22 season, the years of relentless pressure and physical sacrifice finally caught up. He struggled profoundly for form and confidence, a shadow of the player who had burst onto the scene. Just 5 goals all season. His on-pitch demeanor sparked concern. He looked, as he would later admit, like a player who wasn't enjoying his football. The explosive, decisive forward had been replaced by someone who looked lost out there. The boy wonder had hit a wall, leaving many to wonder if he would ever fulfill his immense potential. Then came the 2022-23 season. Under new manager Erik Ten Hag, something clicked. Freed from the pain of the injuries that had plagued him, Rashford was reborn. He played with purpose, bravery, and decisiveness that had been missing. The result was the single greatest season of his career. He scored 30 goals in all competitions, more than doubling Bruno Fernandes's tally, and Bruno was the team's next highest scorer. He was, without question, Manchester United's most valuable player, the man who delivered time and again. Winners against Manchester City, Liverpool, and Arsenal. A masterful performance away to Barcelona in the Europa League. When United needed someone to step up in the biggest moments, it was always Rashford. His underlying numbers were elite. 99th percentile for non-penalty goals among Europe's top forwards, 98th for total shots per game. He celebrated his goals by pointing to his head, a symbol of his newfound mental strength and focus. Ten Hag had set him a preseason target of 20 goals. Now vindicated, the manager was talking about 40. It felt like the definitive moment. After years of promise and setbacks, potential had finally crystallized into consistent world-class reality. United rewarded him with a massive new contract until 2028, making him one of the club's top earners. At 25 years old, Marcus Rashford had seemingly conquered his demons and was ready to lead Manchester United into a new era. For a few months, everything was perfect, and then it all fell apart. The peak was brutally short-lived. The 2023-24 season saw a dramatic collapse in form. The 30-goal hero vanished, replaced by a player who scored just 8 times all season. His shooting accuracy plummeted, his decision-making grew erratic, and his on-pitch body language once again invited criticism. Then the off-field issues started, most notably an unauthorized trip to Belfast that led to him being dropped for disciplinary reasons. The arrival of manager Ruben Amorim for the 2024-25 season proved to be the final nail in the coffin of his United career. The Portuguese coach, demanding absolute commitment, was unimpressed with Rashford's attitude and application in training. A public fallout ensued, with Amorim freezing the forward out of the squad completely. In a damning critique, Amorim stated he would rather play his 63-year-old goalkeeping coach than a player who doesn't give the maximum every day. Think about that for a second. Your manager would rather field a pensioner than you. With no way back at United, Rashford was sent on a surprise loan to Aston Villa for the second half of the season. There, he showed glimpses of his former self, 4 goals and 6 assists in 17 games. Teammate Amadou Onana called him a humble guy, and an amazing player. But Villa opted not to make the £40 million move permanent, partly due to missing out on Champions League qualification. So now he's in limbo. A man without a club that truly wanted him. His boyhood team had cast him out. His temporary home had passed on a permanent deal. The escape to Barcelona isn't some triumphant next chapter. It's just sad. A desperate search for a fresh start, anywhere but Manchester. The story of Marcus Rashford at Manchester United is not one of failure, but of a promise that burned incredibly bright before fizzling out. It's a cautionary tale of a homegrown talent who reached the pinnacle, only to find that staying there was the hardest challenge of all.